The most successful people in fitness approach weight loss completely different from everyone else. Not harder, not with more suffering, not by restricting themselves into misery and hunger, just differently. The secret weapon isn't a new diet protocol or a better workout split. It's a completely different psychological relationship with the process. One that makes consistency feel natural instead of a constant fight against yourself. Today we're going to break down exactly what the psychological difference is, why eating too few calories is one of the most common and most damaging mistakes people make, and what the approach looks like when it's built to actually last. Hi, this is Ken, certified fitness and nutrition coach. Hit that like button if you're ready. Here we go. Let's start with the wrong philosophy, because most weight loss attempts are psychologically doomed before the first meal is logged. The most common weight loss psychology looks like this. Decide to lose weight, set an aggressive calorie target, cut out food groups, start a punishing workout schedule, suffer through the discomfort, lose some weight, burnout, hunger, and a life event derails it. Regain the weight, feel like a failure, repeat. This is not a discipline problem, it's a systems problem. The approach was built on a foundation of restriction, deprivation, and suffering. And restricted-based systems always have the same failure mode. They require more willpower than any human can sustain indefinitely. They are not designed for life. They are designed for a sprint that ends in collapse. The restriction mindset frames food as the enemy, hunger as a weakness, and rest as a failure. Every meal becomes a moral decision. Every missed workout becomes evidence of inadequacy. The person inside the system is not building anything. They are fighting a war against themselves, and eventually, exhausted, they stop fighting. The successful approach doesn't start with restriction. It starts with a completely different question. The intuitive logic goes like this. Eat less, lose more weight. Get there faster. It sounds correct, but it is wrong. Not just suboptimal, genuinely wrong, both physiologically and psychologically. Physiologically, chronic undereating triggers a cascade of metabolic adaptations that work directly against weight loss. When the calorie intake drops too low, the body sees this as a threat to survival. Metabolic rate decreases, muscle tissue is catabolized for energy, cortisol rises, thyroid function adapts downward, the body becomes more efficient at storing fat relative to the calories it perceives as starvation. Psychologically, undereating is even more destructive. Severe caloric restriction produces measurable cognitive effects, reduced concentration, increased irritability, heightened food preoccupation, and a dramatic increase of psychological salience of food. Studies on semi-starvation show that food becomes the dominant psychological focus. This is not a character weakness, it is a neurological response to a perceived resource scarcity. The person eating very little and losing very little weight is not failing because of lack of effort. Their body has adapted to protect them from what it perceives as starvation. The practical result is a person who is hungry all the time, thinks about food constantly, has less mental energy for every other area of their life, and is operating a body that is actively working against their goals. More restriction does not produce more results. It produces suffering, followed by more rebound. The successful approach does not chase the largest possible deficit. It finds the smallest deficit that can produce constant, sustainable progress, then focuses on the psychological energy on making that sustainable system feel normal. Here are 3 psychological shifts that separate long-term success from the restriction cycle. The restriction mindset asks, what do I have to give up? The successful mindset asks, what do I need to add? More protein, more vegetables, more water, more sleep, more movement. Addition builds momentum. Deprivation builds resentment. Instead of starting with what you can't have, start with the non-negotiables you're going to add. Hit your protein target. Get your vegetables. Move your body. Sleep your hours. The subtraction happens naturally as the consequence of the addition, without the psychological cost of restriction. The restriction mindset is fixated on the number on the scale. Every weigh-in is a verdict. Every plateau is a crisis. The successful mindset invests in the process. The question shifts from, did I lose weight this week? To, did I execute my plan this week? The process is fully controllable. Outcomes are partially influenced by hormones, water retention, sleep quality, a dozen other variables outside your control. Investing identity in the process rather than outcome produces consistency, because the process can always be won regardless of what the scale says. The restriction mindset has an end date. I'll eat this way until I reach my goal. This creates a finish line, and finish lines create a rebound waiting to happen. The successful mindset never has a finish line. It asks, what version of eating can I do for the rest of my life? Not perfect, not aggressive, sustainable. The goal is not the number on the scale. The goal is a way of living that produces the body as a natural byproduct. Lasting weight loss is never really about the weight. People who lose it and keep it off are not people who wanted to be a certain number badly enough. They are people who, somewhere in the process, stopped thinking of themselves as someone trying to lose weight and started thinking of themselves as someone who lives a certain way. The target shifts from the body to the identity. Not, I want to be thinner, but I am someone who eats well, trains consistently, and takes their health seriously. The body weight becomes a downstream consequence of the identity rather than the primary objective. Identities, unlike goals, don't have a completion date. Building the identity of a healthy person through accumulated small actions, through showing up, through the daily evidence of who you are, is the actual work. The weight loss is a side effect. Eat enough. This is non-negotiable. A moderate calorie deficit, somewhere between 300 to 500 calories below maintenance, for most people, produces steady, sustainable fat loss without metabolic and psychological consequences of severe restriction. I would even suggest a calorie deficit even lower for the first 1 to 2 weeks. 200 calories. This is a small target, but also a method of easing into new habits. It also allows adequate protein intake to preserve muscle tissue, which is the primary driver of metabolic rate. Eat enough, train consistently, be patient. This is the entire nutrition framework of people who succeed long term. Train for the body you want to live in, not for the calories you want to burn. The person who trains to burn off last night's dinner is in the restriction mindset. The person who trains to be stronger, more capable, and more functional is building something. The training mindset of successful people is addictive. They are building a body, not punishing one. Build structure, not rules. Rules break. Structure bends and recovers. Rule says I don't eat carbs. Structure says I eat protein at every meal. Train 4 days a week. I get 7 hours of sleep. Rules produce guilt when broken. Structure produces minor adjustments and continued progress. Month 1 is the hardest. The new behaviors are unfamiliar. The results are modest. The old patterns pull hard. This is where most restriction-based approaches collapse. The sustainable approach doesn't collapse here because it wasn't built on suffering. It was built on a modest deficit, adequate food, continuous training, and the beginning of an identity shift. By month 3, the behaviors are becoming habitual. The training is less effortful. The eating patterns are more automatic. The body has changed enough to be noticeable. Identity is starting to hold. I am someone who trains is no longer something you're trying to believe. It is something you have evidence for. By month 6, the identity is established. The behaviors are largely automatic. The results are significant and stable. The psychology is shifted from effort to ownership. Maintaining the approach no longer feels like discipline. It feels like being who you are. By month 12, the person in the mirror is not the person who started, not just physically, psychologically. The relationship with food is different. The relationship with movement is different. The relationship with self is different. This is what long-term success looks like. Not a dramatic transformation over 30 days, a quiet, compounding accumulation of identity over a year. The most successful people in fitness are not doing a harder version of what everyone else is doing. They are doing a fundamentally different thing. They are not restricting more aggressively. They are eating enough to support consistent training and a functional life. They are not fixated on the scale. They are invested in the process. They are not on a diet with an end date. They are building a life with no finish line. The hidden psychology behind weight loss success is not a secret technique or a biohack or a protocol. It's a different question. Not how much can I take away, but what kind of person do I want to be? And what does that person do every day? Answer the question honestly. Build the structure that makes it executable, and eat enough food to fuel it, and the results will follow as a matter of physics. Watch this video next if you want to understand how discipline and identity principles in series can work together at the neurological level. And I will see you next time.